Hello, it's Keith from Kinvert, and in this video we're going to be going over how to solve quadratic equations by using the quadratic formula. So in this case, we have x squared plus 8x plus 14 equals negative 1. Now you'll notice that there's a negative 1 here, but we want this to be a 0 to match the standard form for the quadratic formula to work. So what we're going to do is cancel this. On the right, we want this to be a 0, so we add 1 to both sides, and now what we're going to have is x squared plus 8x, and that's going to be plus 15 at this point. And now the equation is equal to 0, so this is now in standard form, and we can begin to plug in these numbers. So first, let's find the value of a. A is 1 because it's just x squared, b is 8, and c is positive 15. We can begin filling out the quadratic formula here. It's going to be negative 8, this is for b, plus or minus the square root of b squared. I'll go ahead and, even though we know that's 64, we'll do this step by step, minus 4 times a is 1 times c, 15. And that is the discriminant. Now we're going to go for the 2a, and we'll just leave it. Well, I'll put the 1. I'll put the 1 there. So now we want to start getting this down to a more usable form. We'll keep the negative 8 here, plus or minus the square root of 64, that's 8 squared, minus 4 times 1 is 4 times 15. So let's see, 2 times 15 is 30, so 2 times, so this is 60. 64 minus 60. And then we're dividing all of this by 2. We can rewrite this further as negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 4. 64 minus 60 is the square root of 4 there. And then we've got dividing this by 2. And we're awfully close now. We're at the point where we know that this is negative 8 plus or minus 2 divided by 2. And finally, this is negative 4 plus or minus 1. And that is because 8 divided by 2 is 4, or negative 8, and then 2 divided by 2 is 1. So this is essentially our answer. We'll go ahead and write out the two different versions of this answer. So first we've got negative 4 plus 1, and that is going to be negative 3. And so one of the solutions is x equals negative 3. Now let's look at the other solution, and that is negative 4 minus 1. And that is going to be negative 4 minus 1, that is negative 5. So the other solution is x equals negative 5. Now, we have already solved this same equation through factoring in a previous video, and I will link to that at the end of this video so you can see the two different methods and we got the same solution. Let's quick test it, all right? Let's just test the first one because I already did this in the previous video. But let's see, I'll put the variable in purple. So we're going to have a negative 3 here and a negative 3 over here. And you'll see why in a sec. This is just an easy way for me to write it. Now let's write the equation. So we've got, basically a is 1, so we'll just skip that. But we've got this squared plus 8 times x. And then we're adding 15. Or let's do the 14 because we want to make sure the original equation is still true. So let's do this. Negative 3 squared turns out to be 9. Plus 8 times negative 3 is negative 24 plus 14. So if we do negative 24 plus 14, this is 10, negative 10, my bad. And then this is 9 minus 10, and that does indeed equal negative 1. So we can see that the solution does indeed check out, and that x is negative 3 is one of the solutions. What I'd like you to do is go back and redo this checking method, but do it for x is negative 5. All right, so this was Keith from Kinvert. We went over how to solve a quadratic equation by using the quadratic formula, negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. We showed how to plug in the values, go through and simplify this into a much simpler looking form than this, all with steps that you should already know. Like negative 4 times 15, you can figure out that that's negative 60, right? So we're going through, we're finding that 64 minus 60 is the square root of 4. You should know that's 2. That divided by 2, we end up with this, right? So it's several simple steps that you've already used. You're just basically using a new formula here. So hope this was helpful, and we will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.